Our organization is thrilled to introduce you to the inaugural episode of the Purple Table Talk podcast. So join us now at the Purple Table, where the conversations are enlightening, the stories are empowering, and the courage to run for office takes center stage. Stay tuned for a series of enlightening conversations that will inspire, inform, and elevate your understanding of what it truly means to serve your community and your nation. My name is Destiny Baker Sutton, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving as the president of the Palm Beach County Cherie Davis Cunningham Black Women Lawyers Association. Welcome to the Purple Table Talk podcast.
We're excited to have everybody here tonight to just talk a little bit about the courage to run for office. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start with you because you're in office and dealing with all of the dynamics every day. And maybe we could just start talking a little bit about what led you to run for office and the challenges that you faced along the way and perhaps how you overcame them.
Well, what led me to run? So I was frustrated with a lot of things I saw going on. And I was telling everybody else they should run. And then I was praying about it, and I was like, I felt convicted, like I should run. And the last time God told me to do something, I didn't do it. And I said, if God gave me the opportunity to do something again, I would definitely do it, just because I didn't want to live in that space of uncertainty, not knowing what I should do. I just want to be in my purpose. And so I said I was going to run. And my husband looked at me, and I talked to him about that. And he was like, I knew it. I knew you were going to come and tell me, have this conversation even before we did it. Wow. And so I said, okay, I'm going to run. But I still was like apprehensive. And we had redistricting and everything. So I didn't even know who was going to be my district, because before we had Debbie, then that was changed. And we had Alcee Hastings. And so after, when I saw it is Alcee Hastings, everything, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to run, because it's different when you're like, oh Lord, I'll do whatever you send me to do. Yes. But then when you see what it is, you're like, oh, hell no.
Right. Like, you want me to do what?
And so I didn't want to do it because, either or was going to be two heavyweights there. And I was like, well, I'm just going to be obedient, right? Because if it doesn't work or whatever happens, I was obedient. Yeah. So I said, if I can raise $10,000, because that's what you needed to run, then I'll do it. 2 days before, I was only at 5,000, and I was like, Lord, I'm trying to be obedient, but guess what? I didn't raise it, So I'm thinking I'm coasting, I'm in the clear, it's not happening. And then the morning where I was supposed to drive to Tallahassee to file, I had 15,000. Oh my. And I said, oh no. I don't want it. And so that's how I did it. And so it was hard. It was hard because, everybody's like, where are you coming from? What is this about? And I just wanted to be obedient. Yes. And I said, before I got married, I had the same kind of prayer. I want to be obedient. So if it's not for me, just like bless me in whatever direction. And so I think that's what gave me the courage to go through the humps and the doubts and to keep fighting. It's because it wasn't really about me and my ego and what I wanted to do. It's because I wanted to be obedient. And when I got into it, that's when I really saw how tough it was, but I was covered in every angle. Yes. And I was meeting people who become they're necessary to what we do. Like Katrina, when I met Katrina, we were on a panel together. And we were sitting there, we were talking. And after that, I've been with Katrina throughout this whole program, this whole process. And so I met a lot of great people in my team, and we were just fighting to do what we needed to do at that point. And we got here.
Katrina, tell us your perspective as sort of the, someone who has been in politics, because you represented the City of Westlake, right? And then, but also you've got the behind the scenes, movers and shakers chess game going on. What's that like?
It's chess. It is definitely chess. I tell people all the time, my experience was different because I was appointed. And I think it was 2016, the year I was appointed, that the Congresswoman and I were on a panel together. And so my experience was different because I felt as though I had to prove myself because I was appointed, right? It's different when you are running for office, working to be elected, and people are seeing you out and you're meeting people. But I had to really earn the respect of the county, really, right? It was a brand new city, and I was able to create the blueprint. And so as the only Black female on the dais, serving with people who had different political views than me, right? I had to ensure that I always showed up very smart. I could not afford to not be smart.
But what does that mean? So people are watching, and what does show up smart mean?
Right.
Because show up smart might be different for one person than another.
That's true.
Right?
I had to read. I had to be prepared. There's one thing, and I think Takeata, she's been an amazing influence for me to talk to women like the Congresswoman. I had to read comp plans. I had to learn. I had to get mentors who were already in office serving. A lot of my contacts, believe it or not, were in Broward and Miami, because I was also nervous and skeptical of who I could trust sometimes, because I didn't want them to say she doesn't know what she's doing, right? Because again, I'm playing chess and I don't know my next move, where I want to go, and so I had to really immerse myself in identifying what worked for other cities. I had to be intentional about making sure I knew the master plan of the capital city of Palm Beach County, so to know what worked here and what may and may not work in Westlake. And so I think that was the difference for me. And then just making sure that I was engaged all the time with everyone, and making sure that I brought resources back to people who look like me, right? Making sure that I was able to encourage them and tell them what was going on when we may not have known what was going on. And I think that's kind of probably what really helped me a lot. Now the fundraising, we'll get to that a little later, but that's a whole nother ball game, the fundraising.
I'm happy you mentioned you have to be better than everyone. I think that as a woman, especially as a woman of color, you have to, that's your whole life history, right? You always have to be smarter. You have to gain your respect. And so I think when we look at us running, when we're in these positions, you're going to find out that usually the room, you will be the smartest person, because we're pushed to be perfect and to have everything in order. And we have to be not just nurturers wherever we're working, but we have to be the smartest person. If not, we'll be embarrassed, right? Even though someone else can say, oh, I don't know the answer. So you always do have to be the smartest, always be over-prepared. And I think that because I had a history of that in my personal life and business and law school and just working, when I came in, especially into that political space, I was reading all night. Like I didn't sleep, I was studying. Like you're just taking in so much information that it does give you a leg ahead. And so many women who I talk to, they're afraid to run. And I'm like, your whole life has prepared you for this. Your entire life, everything you had to fight, everything you had to do, every time you had to prove yourself worthy to be present has prepared you to be here. And so when you get there, always know you're already prepared to be there. Because there's going to be so many mediocre people you meet who feel like they should be there because they're connected and they're this and they're that. And when you ask them questions, they're like, well, I don't know. And they are happy to say it. But people, the respect, I've been in Congress now for like a year and 9 months. And the respect we've been able to gain as a team is because my entire team has been accustomed to working like that. And my entire team is composed of mostly women. And so we've had to overperform over and over and over again. So I always try and tell people, when you're considering that, just know that you are prepared and worthy to be there. And the truth is, our stories are our biggest assets. We are able to see life not just from our personal perspective, but because we love so deeply our children, our parents, we're caregivers, just our sisters. We speak from an angle that benefits the entire community. And people can connect and feel that. It's very different when people are just talking from talking points, and it's very logical, it's cerebral. We actually talk from our heart because we know who this affects.
Because we lived it.
Right. We go home and see our kids, we go home and see our parents, and we feel that, and people connect to that authenticity.
I think one of the biggest humps that I've seen in women sort of getting over that mindset of should I run is fear of losing. So maybe Takeata, with you have spent years, right, with the Women's Foundation, with teaching women how to prepare and how to, move through the ups and downs and highs and lows. How do you get over or get past the fear of losing?
It's, honestly, here's the thing. And I love that you were talking about women being afraid to run because they don't think they're smart enough. And I think the dirty little secret of politics is people assume everyone knows what's going on. People assume that our elected leaders know what they're talking about, and I think that's less the case more often. And when women like the ones sitting around this table run for office, you bring a new perspective, you bring a new vision, like you look different than the people, and that's what we need. We need that new perspective. And the fear of running is so real. There's so many, like, I don't want my life to be out there for everybody to see. I don't want people attacking my children, all valid concerns. Running for office is not for the faint of heart. It's not easy, as the Congresswoman and the former Vice Mayor know, but you do it because you're passionate about something. And if you're not running because you have a passion to accomplish something, you shouldn't be running. It's very, when you have a purpose, right? It's like when you're fundraising, right? I'm not asking people to give money to Takeata King Pang. I'm asking people to give money for the vision that we're going to accomplish when I'm elected. And that's what women need to really learn. We think we need all the degrees and the education and the certifications, but as the Congresswoman said, we are already right now. The skill set that we bring to the table is unique to each of us, and it's needed. And we don't need to all be experts on the budget. We can talk to the staff that are the experts on the budget. And the thing I love about women is that we're more open to that. We're more open to having conversations, because you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You just have to be smart enough to ask the smartest person in the room. And I think that once women, in our programs, we have Women on the Run, in our training programs, when the women start realizing that it's all about the vision that they want to accomplish and how they want to improve their community, it changes how you think about running for office. It's a little less scary because it's not about you. It's a greater purpose, like a calling.
So how do you do it now? I mean, running for office is not cheap, right? It takes a lot of dollars and a lot of raising and a lot of phone calls. And I've heard a lot of rejection, right? You call, I need money. No, click, hang up, not answering her anymore. You know, we all get the calls, and we probably do the same thing. Please don't call me anymore asking me for money. But how does someone who is running for office, whether it be Congress or running for, a local, seat, a local board, I'm running for president of the Florida Bar, and it's very expensive, same thing. And we've all had to think about different ways of how we raise those dollars and then leverage those dollars to best, support our campaigns. How do we do it?
I think everybody's trying to crack the code. No, I'm kidding. I came into politics for the first time. And so when you come in as a first timer, a newbie, you don't have that financial base of donors.
Yes.
When you're rising through the ranks, you're building that donor base and you're coming up. So for me, it was a conversation I had to have with me and my husband of, are we going to invest in ourselves first? Mm-hmm. And so that's when we looked at it and we said, we will invest in us first. Yes. And so my biggest donation came from my husband. Okay. And he, even before I said, I'm going to put money in, he was like, I believe in you. Here is 100,000. You can do this. Yes. And we believed in ourselves. Yes. And I think that when you're running and you're new, people are looking to see if you will invest first in yourself. So they will ask you, well, how much money have you put in? How much money have you raised? And once people see that you're invested, then they'll be like, well, if your money's on the table, I'll put it in also. But I think that we need to be clear on what avenues we're looking for donors, right? We are our biggest donors. Yes. And anytime you're doing it, I remember they gave me a list of people I didn't know. They're like, call these people who I didn't know, I couldn't connect with. You're on the phone having an awkward conversation, hey, and
that call
right,
time.
that call
yes.
But you can't even connect with them, right? And so I think the best avenue is to look at who your circles are, and you always start there. And they take you down those avenues, and some people you call, like you click immediately. You're on the phone for half an hour talking to the stranger because that's your tribe. You know what I mean? Right. So once you find your tribe and your groove and you're confident in it, I think that's what allows you to actually start fundraising. Yeah, but that takes a lot of self.
And there's tools. I was a telemarketer in college, so they taught us you get hung up on, click, don't ever call me again, left and right. But we were taught, first when you have to have thick skin. Yeah. You don't get hurt when they tell you no. You dial the next number. Right. Number 2, you keep a smile on your face when you're on the phone. It comes through. Yes. And you need to figure out a way to connect with this person. And you got to do it quick. Not everyone can do that. Right. So what if you're not that person? What if you're like, I hate talking to people?
Politics is a story.
But you also need to surround yourself with the professionals, right? As a former, as I've been running campaigns for over 2 decades now, which is crazy to say out loud. But the running call time, right? When you have a staff person next to you that's keeping you calm, that's helping you move through the different steps. But also, you know, there's where you call, like your staff is calling, and so you just do the closing of like, hi, I'm the candidate. And so there are ways to work around those obstacles. I think fundraising scares a lot of women, especially women of color, and especially if you don't come from means, because as someone who grew up in poverty, it's very hard to ask someone for $1,000, $5,000, and it's like, I would never give that at that. So it's really changing your mindset of recognizing those lists are uncomfortable and awkward, but it's a numbers game. The more people you call, the more people are going to say yes to you. So you just keep moving through the next one. You have to make a game out of it. You have to make it fun, but surround yourself with staff that really know how to push you to do that.
You have staff and then wine on the other side.
Yes, call time requires comfort.
That is a skill. If you have wine, you are skilled. Because I think by the end of the call, I've been like, hey, so what you watching? I hear in the back, and it would have turned into something else. So I don't do any wine, but God bless whoever could do it.
But you know, a strategy that I have a close friend who's running currently, and one of the strategies I gave her was something that I was, because one time I was going to be running for office, and I may run one day, we'll see, but I will run one day. But a strategy that my father-in-law, who's former commissioner, gave me was identify 35 people who are willing to invest $1,000 in you. And because like her, she was scared, I'm not going to be able to raise money. And I said, no, let's create a list of 35 people who will give you $1,000. And she did it. And she met the goal in 2 days. And it blew our mind. And then we were able to surpass the goal and then go out and ask for more money, right? And so for her, before it started call time, it was those, like we said, those personal connections, those people who were willing to invest in the vision of what she wanted to do to be a leader. And so I think this free game for people who listening to the podcast. Right. Identify 35 people who will invest $1,000 in you. And that's your $35,000 right there, right out the gate. Yeah. And then, you know, you move forward with being innovative with, you know, I know the Congresswoman had amazing fundraisers. At one time, this young lady who I'm talking about, she's in a sorority. So her sorority is currently doing the year they were founded, the 1913 fundraiser, right? And so another tactic is identifying when people are giving, it confuses your opponent because they see these list of names. And so then they're nervous, right? Oh, you know, and it intimidates them a little bit. It's an intimidation tactic where you kind of want them to go in and get out the way so you don't have to run against them. But there are different strategies like that for your fundraising efforts.
Well, I think, and you know, one of the things that we have talked about sort of around a little bit is being a woman of color and what are the barriers and challenges that might be different for us than others, you know, in a political race. Things like you talked about, you know, people not trusting you, not believing that you can do the job. You know, I get that all the time, like, oh my gosh, you're running for what? You know, and I say, yes, I am. That's right. You know, and so I think, how do you, for women that are considering running for office, maintain that resilience of, you know, people doubting you and people challenging you and people perhaps saying, you know, I don't think you're ready for this?
How do you get over it? Your community.
Yeah.
I think it was the community. Every time I felt like I had some doubt, I would meet somebody else and I would tell them my story and they're like, you know what, you could do this. I had to be authentic. I had to talk about when I was a single parent, before I got married, what it was like to struggle. And people wanted to see someone like them win. That's right. And they would tell me, like, all I have is $2. I'm going to give you that. Whatever it is, I'm going to keep you pushing and moving. Because the truth is, if you win, they win. Because you would turn back and serve that community that loved you when you thought you weren't lovable. And so I think that's really what it is. I mean, I've lost, I think, 2 elections, 3 elections. I can't even remember anymore. I think it's 2 elections. And the hardest thing for me in losing was that I said, oh my God, what's going to happen to my community? You know, what's going to happen to the programs that we wanted to see and the people that we wanted to see? So that kept fueling me to go forward.
Okay.
I think that's a really important point too, is having your kitchen cabinet, your mentors that you can pick up the phone and talk to, having someone that you can vent to and feel safe is so important in the whole campaign and once you're elected.
There's one thing I want to bring up also. Sure. I remember, I'm thinking about Katrina here. So when we were going through the election that we finally did end up winning, do you remember that? So when we were going through that, it was like the night of the election. At first they said that we lost. And then a few hours they're like, oh no, you won. And we were on our way to the party. And I was getting ready to give my concession speech, we lost. They're like, no, then you won. The next morning, in the middle of the night, we got a call. They're like, be in Palm Beach, we have work to do and everything. I was exhausted. Yeah. So I came in and I was just tired and I was in a room and they went to work for me. Yeah. They went to work. Like when you can't even do it, you have a team that will lift you up. Yes. Katrina, Charisma, Sean, everyone just lifted me up and everybody went to work. Like people I didn't know came in and they were like curing balance, calling people.
And that's a whole nother conversation. Y'all know that.
I remember the recount and curing ballots and all,
Yeah, so that kitchen cabinet, like when you find, but I can't stress enough, when you find people who are like you, your success is their success, right. And so they will hold you up when you can't do it. Yeah. When I'm telling you, I was out of it, I was tired, and they were like fighting for me. So that group is imperative.
So a couple more topics. What about the attacks that you face when running for office? You spoke about this as one of those, Takeata, barriers to women. Like I don't want, to be attacked personally. I don't want my children to be attacked. I don't want my husband to be attacked, my family. How does a candidate deal with all of that? Because it's coming. I mean, it's part of the game. It's part of the race. You're going to get attacked. What do you do?
It's, number one, being very confident in, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Everyone's going to have an opinion about how you should be doing what you're doing, why you should do it, and you have to be secure in yourself and have the support system, your family, your spouse, your kitchen cabinet. That really does make a difference. I will say, if you really don't think you can handle it, if you're elected mayor of your small town, people are going to come up to you at the grocery store and yell at you. That happens. Yes. And we have actual program at the Women's Foundation called our Network of Elected Women, and it's part support group, part collaboration on policy, and that's one of the issues. They're like, oh, people are coming up to me all the time. And so they have that support group where we bring them together once a month and they, talk to each other, they vent, it's a safe space. But also, tactics of this is how I'm with my children, do you mind? And different tactics that different women have used and sharing it with each other. It's a very communal piece. But I would say if you really don't think you can handle it, don't run for office, but there are other opportunities. There are tons of commissions and boards that you can be appointed to that don't require you to go through a campaign, so those attacks aren't likely, but they aren't impossible.
I think they are going to come no matter what. I mean, I get an email every single day that I'm a tyrant. Literally every single day. There is a slogan: when Black women lead, we all win. Right? What does that mean to you?
It means that we've been held out for so long, that our voices has been neglected, our voices haven't been brought to the table. And so the presence of having one person who not only has a voice but can shape the conversation, can shape solutions, that's when you start seeing the ripple effects throughout the entire country. Once we normalize us standing up and talking about what's going on, that's when we see real change. And that's what we're looking to do, is to make sure we have real change and that everything is actually changing the dynamics. I always talk about what is our generational destiny moment and goals. Our goal truly is to make sure that we're able to make sure that we finally attain our place in history. And until this moment, we haven't seen such a large amount of Black women even in Congress. Right. So the conversation is changing, where now we're looking at fibroids, we're looking at premenopause, we're looking at infant maternal health, right? We're looking at these things. Before, people were silent on it. And so that's what's different now about us actually being present and being a part of it. And it's important that we keep advocating and pushing and taking down those barriers, because the truth is, we've been left out for centuries.
Right.
And so our destiny moment and our duty is to make sure our children aren't left out. It should be normal for our kids to say, oh yes, now this is about my hair. I can wear it how I want to wear it. I don't have to prove myself to be overly good enough for these moments. Like, I'm just here.
Right.
So that's what we're fighting for here. And I think that's where, this is how we shift it, right? The conversation also when women speak, especially Black women, we've cared for and been there for so many people that it's really not just about us defending ourselves, but us defending everyone. You know, so I can't come into a room and just fight for just Black women.
Right.
I have to fight for all my sisters because we're going to go back and we're going to have wine and everything and celebrate together. But if I'm suffering, I'm not going to let you fight my sister here and say, you know, she can't come with us. We all have to open those doors.
But we have multiple examples of where Black women and the organization of Black women has come together and saved us. Look what's happened in Georgia with Stacey Abrams and the work that she's done on the ground. And I tell people on a regular basis, as a woman of color, we need to recognize that the Black women are leading the way and that they are really taking the lead. And when you are in charge, when Black women are getting to the leadership roles, it's making such a systemic change in how our government and how our community works. We need that. We need more of that.
Because we're bringing in perspectives that people just could not relate to before, didn't have experience with before, and now we're saying, exactly,
That's right.
exactly.
You know, I like to say, coined it, when women show up, we win.
That's right.
And I like the fact that, you know, and I feel as though Black women, we have a sense of being collaborative and bringing everyone together, right? I think that sometimes, as we said, we've been excluded for far too long. But when you have a Black woman at the table, not only at the table, but creating tables,
Right.
then she's able to throw the ladder down to women who look like her. And the women who look like us are able to throw it to women who do not look like us.
Absolutely.
And we're okay with that,
Yeah.
right? We're okay with being able to share because we know that it's a bigger part of the puzzle than us, right?
Right.
But I do appreciate, even with the role I'm in now, the organization that I'm a part of, I'm the first Black in-house staff member for this consulting firm, right?
Yeah.
And it's only because of the work I've been able to do with each of you,
Yeah.
each of you together, calling on you, showing
Yes.
that we're relevant and we're present
Right.
and we're here to stay and we can get things done.
Well, this is a Purple Table Talk, and you all have all been talking about having a seat at the table. One of my mentors told me many times, it's not just about you having a seat at the table, it's also about you pulling up a chair
That's right.
and a chair and a chair for others.
That's right.
So I hope that we have encouraged you all tonight to fight for that seat at the table, but always be sure that you're making room for the next person to have a seat. So thank you all for being here, and this is our Purple Table Talk.